I somehow read 16 things in the month of July, so let's talk about them. Hi everyone, my name's Leah. Welcome back to the channel. Today we will talk about my July wrap-up. So yeah, unexpectedly I've read a lot of books, which is a very good reading month for me. I will try not to talk in too much detail about all of these books because the video would be way too long. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Let's start with all the digital books that I've read. I actually only have one of them, which was the third volume in the Starving Anonymous series. I gave it 3.5 stars on Goodreads. Oh yeah, this is actually a manga. And yeah, this only has 5 volumes in total, so I think I'll be done with this very soon. I really enjoy the series. It's horror, and it's about survival in a very interesting facility where people get kidnapped and stuff happens with them. And it also has a supernatural twist, which is cool. And in this third volume, there wasn't too much stuff going on, but it was very interesting. We learn about this guy who works in this building, who is very cruel and does some interesting experiments. And one of this experiment is hunting our main characters right now, and that was really exciting. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this all wraps up in the end, and if our group will be able to get out of there alive or not. And even if they do, there's also some other stuff going on that they would have to solve in any way, because just getting out isn't enough without saying too much. So yeah, I really enjoy it. I can recommend it if you like horror, and this is also funny at times. The art style is okay. It's not overwhelmingly beautiful, but it's very nice to look at. And yeah, read that. And then the only other book that I can't show you is a paperback that I only borrowed, kind of. It's part of a thing that I do with some people on a Discord channel. We send each other books, and then we annotate them and send them to the next person, and at the end you will receive the copy that you've sent with 5 different annotations from all people in there, just to have a very special edition with all kinds of notes and highlights in it, and also some tiny illustrations. So yeah, that was really fun. I've read the first book for that, which was a fantasy novel, and if you don't want to get spoiled because you're part of this group and you're somehow watching this video right now, please don't listen and skip this book. The book was House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland, which is a YA horror book, I would say. I wouldn't really say it's a fantasy book per se. I mean, there is some fantasy stuff in it, but not very much. It mostly happens towards the very end of the book. And this was fun. I gave it 3 stars. I think it would have been better if there was more fantasy in it. It really felt, for the most part, like just a thriller or mystery book to me, and has a lot of YA stuff going on. It's set in our well-known contemporary world, and I don't know, there was just some stuff that I don't really enjoy. We follow, well, basically 3 sisters, but the book is written from just one particular sister, and they have experienced some traumatizing stuff in their childhood, and they all forgot about what really happened, but it's all over the news and people talk about it, and they are just very different from everyone around them. So yeah, we learn about this mystery, what was going on, why are they acting so weird. And yeah, I have already forgotten a lot about what actually happens in this book, but I saw the mystery or plot twist from like page 30 or something. Like, as soon as this person or being or whatever showed up, I knew who it was, so that wasn't that fun. And yeah, I just don't like a lot of YA thrillers, but it was fun for what it is. It was fast-paced, and there was some body horror here and there in it, which was cool. So yeah, there was some interesting stuff, had some interesting atmosphere, but yeah, just some plot choices I personally don't gravitate towards. Okay, so the next 4 books will be books that I've already talked about in my vlog. Yeah, I did my first vlog just a few days ago, and yeah, I don't have to talk about them now because I was really talking about them very in depth. The video is 1 hour long, just talking about 4 books basically. So if you're really interested in what I have to say about them, check out the video. I have timestamps in there if you're just curious about a single book. You don't have to watch the whole hour. So the books in question are In the Lives of Puppets, Wait by Janet Winterson, Vacations from Hell, an anthology by Libba Breaker St. Clair, Claudia Gray, Maureen Johnson and Sarah Molnowski, as well as Right to Life by Jack Ketchum, which also has 2 short stories in it, but also just 1 novel, which is Right to Life, the title story. This is an extreme horror book following a woman who's being kidnapped just on her way into a clinic. She's pregnant, and well, it's about survival, and it was fun. I gave the novel itself 4 stars. The short stories were just not for me, gave them 2 stars. They didn't really give me anything, didn't feel like horror, and the twists weren't that surprising to me personally. But yeah, the novel itself I do recommend, although I do not like some of the choices the characters made, as well as the ending. But no, wait, I wasn't supposed to talk about the book in detail. Check out the video if you're interested. Then Vacations from Hell, also horror, but YA, just short stories that are perfect for summer with supernatural twists. So we have vampires, witches, that kind of stuff. Loved 1 story out of it, liked the others, but yeah, for more information, check out the vlog. Then the next one, Wait by Janet Winterson, was a mythology retelling of Atlas and Heracles, which is part of a series that I just slowly but surely get through. And these are all standalones written by different authors, and they are all about retellings of all kinds of stuff. There's biblical retellings, but also Greek mythology obviously in here. And yeah, liked it. Gave it like 4 stars, I think, so recommend it. And the last one, In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, is a Pinocchio retelling, but with a sci-fi twist, very reminiscent of the Lunar Chronicles, and I really loved it. 4.5 stars. It was very emotional towards the end, and I just like the cozy fantasy mixed with some more action also. Very nice twist. Loved the writing. Excited to read more by TJ Klune. And the stack immediately looks less frightening than it did a few minutes ago. So let's get through all the other books that I haven't talked about in any other video. So first off, we have some book series continuations. I always try to read book series that I've started in every month, just so that I don't have 50 plus book series that I need to read. So the first one would be Viper by J.R. Ward, which is the 3rd, maybe the final, I'm not sure, book in the Black Dagger Prison Camp series, which is a very long series, considering that there's other series that you had to read prior to this book. And I love the Black Dagger universe. It's all about vampires. This one also introduces us to werewolves, and I just love how the world expands with every series and every book. They are always entertaining. They have a lot of fantasy and action in it, and also romance. And this one is about this prison where vampires and werewolves are imprisoned because they supposedly did something and they are not treated very nicely and they are trying to escape. So yeah, it's the German edition and I enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. It wasn't as good as the Black Dagger series itself is. I liked the first book in the prison camp series, but book 2 and 3 kind of disappointed me because it wasn't really about the prison itself anymore. And I don't know, I didn't like the romance in Viper, so couldn't connect to the characters in that sense. I liked them individually but not together. It felt quite toxic. They didn't really talk with each other about what was going on in their head. But there was a really cool fantastical element about, well, Viper, and that was so cool. It really felt like reading a horror book when it was about that. And I also loved that we learned so much more about the werewolves or wolverines. That's so cool. I'm excited to read more about that because there is a series, Lair of the Wolven, which is just about the wolves, I think. So that's so cool. It hasn't been translated yet, but yeah, I hope it will someday in the future. And yeah, I mean, it was good. It felt like a conclusion to the series, but I'm not sure. And I do recommend it. I don't see Black Dagger often on BookTube, which is a shame because they are very entertaining. And yeah, don't know what else to say about it. Then the next book is Rise of the School for Good and Evil by Soman Shanani. This is the first book of the prequel to The School for Good and Evil. And I've read the whole main series in German, and this is in English, but it didn't really make a difference. It was easy to get into, as all the books by Soman Shanani are, because they are, middle grade, and they always have some kind of fairy tale creatures or stories in there, which is so cool. They have a magical school in it, which is always fun to read about, and I like that this one didn't concentrate on Arthurian legends as the main series at some point did, because I'm just not a big fan of that. So yeah, I loved the fairy tale aspects. Again, there's a lot about Hook from Peter Pan in it, and also Aladdin. So yeah, very different, and loved that. I liked the part about the children more than the brothers. So this is essentially about the two brothers who created the school, the magical school, but I kind of liked to read more about the kids attending the school than the brothers. But yeah, I'm excited for the next book. It's just a duology, I think, talking about the prequel, and I think the series is done after that. I don't know if Soman Shanani will write anything else in that universe. I would be interested in it, but they do get repetitive after. This is technically the 7th book in that series. So yeah, there are some repetitions in there, but it's fun for a middle grade book for sure, and it's very enjoyable as an adult as well. This also has a few illustrations in it, which is just always nice in middle grade books and also in young adult and adult books. We all love illustrations in our books, don't we? So yeah, it was good. I think 3.5 stars again. So nothing spectacular, but very enjoyable in between. Then I've read a German book, which is only in German, hasn't been translated, and this is also about a magical school. This is book 7. Technically, it says it's book number 3 because the books are split into Element High and Element High colleges, where the characters are just a little bit older. They're not in school anymore, but in college or university. But yeah, it's just one long series with 7 books in it. This is book 7. Enjoyed it very much. There was a lot of stuff about hell in it, which was very interesting. A lot of perspectives to read from, which is cool, and it was even emotional at the end, which I didn't expect, because one of my favorite characters briefly died. That was very sad. But yeah, loved the conclusion to it. I really liked the series. It's never been a 5-star series for me, but very enjoyable, like 4 stars for sure. And I know that the author is going to come out with spin-offs, which sound really interesting. They just focus on a single character in the series, and they can be set after the main series or before that or whatever. And yeah, I'm really excited about that because we follow a lot of characters. Like, we have our main group that were schoolmates in this magical school, and yeah, the group is just growing bigger and bigger. Now we have, like, I don't know, it feels like 8 people in it or something, so yeah, a lot of people, but they are all very interesting. They come from all over the world, which is very cool that the author included that in his book. And it also has some science fiction stuff in it, so it does remind me of Harry Potter in the first books of the series, but now it's something so unique. It's been unique in the first books as well, because it has science fiction in it and also time travel and mythology. And we have like wand magic, but also elemental magic. So yeah, it's been really cool. And I do recommend it. If you can read in German, I do recommend it. If you can't, it's not going to be possible to read it. Let's move on. The next one is book 3 in the Percy Jackson series, which I'm currently rereading because the series is coming out soon. I want to just remind myself what these stories were about. I've read them ages ago and I soon forget about what happens in books, and it just feels like I'm reading them for the first time again. I really didn't remember much of it, so it was very surprising what was happening in there. And I just love all the mythology references in it. It's the most fun. And yeah, the plot is good, characters are good, but the mythology really is what is keeping me interested in it. And yeah, excited for the next one. They are always very short, and I'm gonna be sad if I'm done, but I know that Rick Riordan has a lot of other books that I have never read before. I guess everyone knows about Percy Jackson, but if you haven't read it, I do recommend it very highly. It's one of the best Greek mythology series out there. So these are all the book series that I continued, and the next section will be book series that I started. Yep, I do start book series now. I was always focusing on finishing series before July, but I just have to pick up more book series just to be up to date, to talk about them with all the other people who've already read them ages ago. And I also have to read a lot of book subscription books. Was that English? I don't know. Because I already have like 10 or more of them, and they usually are starts to series, which complicates a lot of things, but it's okay, I will manage it somehow. So I started 4 series in July. The first one is These Hollow Vows, which is only a duology by Lexi Ryan, and I didn't really like it. So I will not continue with the series, which means that I already only have 3 series that I started in July. And this is about a girl who lives in this fantasy world which feels medieval or something like that. And she's an assassin because she needs money, and she just does it by being an assassin, stealing things. And I really liked the world in the book, and also all the fantasy stuff. That was really nice. The problem was that I didn't like any of the characters, not a single one, not even a secondary character, like, couldn't really connect to anyone in there. They were very annoying, very YA, a lot of just misunderstandings that could have been solved if they just talked through the whole shit that they dealt with. And yeah, didn't really like that, so I really don't want to move on. This also has a love triangle, which I don't mind at all. Don't get me wrong, I do like love triangles if there's a character that I actually like. If there's not a single character that I like, a love triangle will be just super annoying. But that isn't the author's fault. I just couldn't connect to anyone, so love triangle was upsetting. And the book really focuses on the romance and the relationships, and not so much about the fantasy stuff. There were so many interesting things in it, like the world is very interesting, the fantastical creatures are interesting, the magic is very interesting as well. It has some fairy tale vibes here and there, and I don't know, it just focused on the wrong things for me personally. So yeah, I started to describe what this book was about, and then I rambled on about other things. So we have this girl, she's an assassin, and then she learns about this competition to marry the Fey Prince. She's not interested, but due to some circumstances, she does attend this competition in this fairy realm where normal people like her aren't supposed to just go to. And well, the story ensues. She learns about some interesting powers, and her sister is kidnapped, so she's trying to find her as well. And she also has a deal with some Fae doing more assassin stuff. And yeah, it's not bad, really. I gave it 2.5 stars, which always means that it's not really bad. I don't really have anything against it. It's just really not for me. And yeah, I will probably unhaul it, which is a shame because this is a pretty edition. But yeah, can't like every book. This is the only really disappointing book that I've read in July. Just 1 out of 16 books. I think that's fine. So on a more positive note, the next series that I started in July was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and I gave it 4 stars, which I didn't expect at all, because I usually don't like Fae stories. I usually don't like a lot of YA romance stories as well, but this one was great. I really liked it, and it doesn't really focus on the romance as well, which is just so refreshing. I mean, there is a very minor romance plot in there for sure, but it felt like it was more about the fantasy and all the dark stuff going on. I loved that it was very, very dark. It's not your cute or hot Fae. They are very mean and cruel and dangerous, and I loved it. So we follow 2 sisters who, at the beginning of the book, like in the first chapter, live in the human world, but they get kidnapped, and about 90 to 95% of the book take place in the Fae world, which is always great. I don't really like urban fantasy that takes place a lot in just a normal human city, so yeah, I liked that. And the Fae are very interesting. We have all kinds of creatures in there with all kinds of skin tones, like blue, green, whatever. It has really nice atmosphere, and we have just these 2 sisters who don't really fit in this world, but they are trying to fit in there, but they just get bullied. They look different, they act differently, and they just don't belong here and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, they are trying, and there's a lot about family relationships as well. We have like their new mother and father who are Fae, and then they also have a child or 2 with 3 sisters, I'm very confused. Maybe they were 3 sisters, not 2 sisters. Anyways, there is a new brother that they have, which was very cute. I think he's focused on more in the spin-off series, which just came out, which would be cool because I really liked what I learned about him in this book. Yeah, really nice that I finally enjoyed a Holly Black book again, because in what's it called, the darkest part of the forest or something like that, I really hated that one. So yeah, I thought that I would hate this one too, because they sound kind of similar but very different from each other. Really like this one, and now I understand why it's so. And the next series that I started, I don't even know how many books are planned in there. It could only be a duology or a quartet. I think a quartet would make sense, but I don't know, just based on different seasons, because this is very wintry, and I think the next one feels more like spring, but I'm not sure. This is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I'm still annotating it at this point, like I'm illustrating it, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars, so it's the second best book that I've read. The best one was In the Lives of Puppets, by the way, just because I had so many emotions in it, and I cried, which happens so rarely, but this one was also almost perfect. Like, I really love the atmosphere. Again, this is a Fae book. Like, how is it possible that I'm liking them now? But yeah, this one was great. Great atmosphere. Reads very historical as well. And we follow Emily, who's a very interesting character. I know a lot of people don't like her. I love her. I really love her. I don't know why people don't like her. She's different, but very unique. I don't know. I just very much connected to her. And I also like the love interest. I forgot the name, but he was nice as well. Very cute and funny. And I mean, we just follow her researching Fae in this Norwegian town, and she's writing her book and has to talk with the villagers in there who don't really like her as well. And she befriends a little Fae, which was so cute, and it really feels like a cozy fantasy. But then, I don't know when, but maybe after half of the book or something, it goes into much darker themes and has your dangerous Fae in it as well, which we described very interestingly. I would love to see an adaptation of the book just to see the Fae. And it was also very much like a fairy tale at times. And yeah, I don't know, there's the human world and also the Fae world or realm in it, and it has like portals in it as well. I always love portal fiction, although this was quite different from a lot of portal fiction. But yeah, I really liked it. I love if books have footnotes as well. This doesn't have too many, but once in a while there is a little footnote in it, and it just made the whole world much more believable because of it, because it talks about like fictional texts that only exist in this world, people writing about Fae and all that kind of stuff, which was so cool. So we have some academic stuff in here as well, but not a lot. And yeah, I'm excited to see how the story unfolds and what the second book really is about. And yeah, I don't know, liked the story very much, loved the characters, the world, fantasy. It was just perfect. And the last series that I started was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Heard a lot of stuff about it. I was kind of hesitant picking this up because I don't really like stuff about circuses or anything related to that. And this is basically about this magical festival which has circus vibes, but it's not really a circus. And it's like a wandering festival which is designed as a competition where you can participate or just watch people, and it's just about illusions, deciding what is real, what is not. It has some great atmosphere in the beginning of the book, but as the book moved on, it was just more and more about typical young adult dialogue and problems and just romance and action, and it really lost the atmosphere for me personally. I really liked the twist of who Caravel is or is not. He's the mastermind behind this festival, and in this edition there's also bonus material about the author talking about her writing process and how she intended the reading experience to be. Like, she wanted initially to put this certain character as Caravel. I'm not spoiling anything, don't worry. But then she decided to flip it around and do something else, which was very clever. And yeah, I mean, this is again about two sisters. So many sisters in YA books, wow. And one of them is always writing to this Caravel character because she wants this festival or circus or whatever in her town, just to experience it once, and then one day they are given tickets to it. So the sisters want to travel there, but when they arrive at the place where the festival is supposed to be, one of the sisters has just vanished, and it turns out that she has been kidnapped, I think. It was very confusing at some point, and the other sister is now attending this competition in the festival to try and rescue her. And I mean, this festival really is just like a town which felt like this one festival and never more. So very, very magical, once in a time. Everyone in this town is participating, and there's magic here, magic there, and it feels like a scavenger hunt because you have to find certain things and then you get a new clue to find something else, and you only have like 3 days until it ends. So that was cool, and can't trust anyone. Everyone is just rushing and asking you questions, and that was really cool. Had great atmosphere, but yeah, as I've said, it didn't really focus on that in the later parts of the story. I did like the last 2 pages or something, which gave us a hint of what the sequel will be about. I will continue the series, but I don't really have high hopes for it because I've heard that the first book is the best in the series, and I only gave this 3 or 3.5 stars because it was entertaining, but again, turned out to be just your typical YA book in the end. I didn't like the major plot twist, which was about this festival thingy. Not about Caravel the character, but the festival itself. Didn't like that. I don't like twists like that. But yeah, the ending was interesting again. So I already have the other books, so why not check them out? They are not very thick books and very fast paced. So maybe I'll be surprised, maybe not. And then the last tiny 2 books are mythology books. They just didn't fit into any other category because these are standalones. The first one is again part of this series that I've talked about with the Heracles and Atlas retelling. This is A Short History of Myth by Karen Armstrong, which is a non-fiction book, the only non-fiction book I think in that series, which you're intended to read first before you read any of the other books. I think would make sense, but you can read it or skip it whenever. And this was very interesting. I mean, it's very short, but it talks just about mythology in general, not just one specific mythology all over the world, and really about its history. Like, we start at the very beginning when people initially made up mythological stuff about how the world was created, or about just gods in the world, or whatever. And then we move on through time, and I think it ends with modern day and how mythology is perceived now. So it was very interesting. There was some stuff in it that I didn't know before, but also a lot of stuff that just reminded me of what I've read about before. So it's a good introductory text to the series and just in general if you're curious about the topic. And yeah, not much to say about it. It was good and I do recommend it. And the last book is a very short book. It's Pegasus by Mariana Meyer and illustrated by K.Y. Craft. I already read one book that was very similar to it, which was also illustrated by K.Y. Craft, which was about King Midas. And this one is about Pegasus, but it's mostly about Bellerophon and a little bit about Pegasus as well. It's very, very short. I only really like them because of the illustrations, really. The story itself is written nicely, but you can read it online for free, probably, or in really any thorough mythology book that is comprised of different myths, because this is a very well-known story, just as King Midas was, but the illustrations are very, very, very nice. So for example, this is one of my favorite illustrations in here, and a very unique part of the story to illustrate. So like every single page has illustrations, and then sometimes we have a whole page, double page, whatever, just filled with illustrations and no text. So yeah, very fast paced, you can read it in a few minutes, but the illustrations are just worth it for sure. And if you don't know anything about the story, it follows this man called Bellerophon who has to go on a journey to defeat a monster, and he's supposed to tame Pegasus because he will help him on this journey, and without him it won't be possible to do what he's been tasked to do. And I mean, this story is basically about that. If you're really, really interested in Pegasus and Bellerophon, there's even more to discover about their lives or journey or whatever. But yeah, it's been nice to just remind myself who Bellerophon was, because I just forget about names so quickly. But yeah, these are all the books that I've read in July. Really pleased with the amount and also with the quality. I did find a lot of enjoyable reads in there. I think this is going to be one of the best wrap-ups in a while, because I will start a new job at the end of August, so I won't have that much time again to just dedicate it to reading and making videos. But yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you soon in my next one. Until then, take care and happy reading, and bye.